recording, and we are live. Oh, Betty, just a reminder to unmute your microphone again. Probably everyone should when we go live. It mutes everyone's.
There you go. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good morning and welcome to the fourth session of the Ballot Simplification Committee, meeting in session to prepare an overview of the legislation for the November voter information pamphlet. My name is Betty Packard, and I was nominated to this committee by the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences. Michelle Anderson was nominated by the Pacific Media Workers Guild. Lauren Gerardin was nominated by the League of Women Voters, and Scott Patterson was nominated by the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences. Our clerk is Peter Stevens, and our deputy city attorney is Jenica Maldonado. This session is operating a little different from those in the past because we're each operating from home rather than a hearing room in City Hall. And as a result, we have instituted a different way of approaching each measure's draft from the city's attorneys this week, and maybe forever. A member of the committee will take the lead on interpreting the draft before we begin committee discussion. Once we have come to a consensus on a draft of the legislation, we open the floor to public comment, and you are welcome to call in with your comments regarding what we have written. Once public comment has ended, we then go over your comments to see if they add substance to the draft. Following that discussion, there is a final reading, and that draft has concluded for the day. There is an appeal process if you do not agree with our final draft. I also need to tell you that this committee has nothing at all to do with the title. It is set by the Director of Elections, and all your comments regarding the title should be directed to him. To begin this session, we are considering the youth vote. And I am the lead on that one. Peter, would you like to read the attorney's draft?
Yes, I would. All right. Can everyone hear me and see this reasonably well?
I'm good.
All right.
Yes, it's fine.
Wonderful.
Peter, could you zoom in? The text is really small on the shared screen.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. How about now?
Perfect.
All right. Thank you. The way it is now, San Francisco residents who are at least 18 years old and are United States citizens may register and vote in San Francisco elections. The San Francisco voters may vote on local candidates and ballot measures, state candidates and ballot measures, and federal candidates. The proposal, Proposition Blank, is a charter amendment that would allow San Francisco residents to vote on local candidates and local ballot measures if those residents are U.S. citizens at least 16 years old and registered to vote. Local candidates include, among other candidates for city offices, candidates for the Board of Education and the Community College Board of Trustees. Proposition Blank would not permit 16 and 17-year-olds to vote on state candidates, state ballot measures, or federal candidates. A yes vote means if you vote yes, you want to amend the charter to allow San Francisco residents to vote on local candidates and local ballot measures if they are U.S. citizens and at least 16 years old and registered to vote. A no vote means if you vote no, you do not want to make these changes.
And interestingly enough, we've had this on the ballot in the past. And so this pretty well, I didn't have to do too many changes because it's been changed over the years. What I did was try to clean it up. I went San Francisco residents, comma, at least 18 years old and United States citizens, comma, may register and vote in the San Francisco elections. San Francisco voters may vote on local and state candidates and ballot measures, as well as federal candidates. Now, in that instance, I just consolidated, and I hope it reads the way that is understandable. Does anybody have any questions about how that might be improved? Any statements? Everybody?
I think what you did, Betty, is great. I read it last night. I don't need to go through it line by line. I'm ready to move it forward to public comment.
Okay. Anybody else? Everybody else okay? All right, the proposal, Proposition blank is a charter amendment that would allow San Francisco residents to vote on local candidates and local ballot measures if those residents are US citizens at least 16 years old and registered to vote. Local candidates include candidates for city offices, the Board of Education, and the Community Board of Trustees. You know, just got rid of all the
Right.
extra words there. And the rest of it is as is, except on the no vote, I went this change rather than these changes.
Okay.
But it was pretty straightforward. So anybody have any comments?
Well, actually, that's the way it is now. Yeah, I don't know if this makes any difference, but maybe at least 18 years old and U.S. citizens should be more of a restrictive clause, like San Francisco residents who are, oh well. Because, I mean, if you take out that clause, it reads San Francisco residents may register to vote.
I didn't take it out. I left it in. I just took out who are.
No. I would make it into a restrictive clause. San Francisco residents who are, I don't know. I just put.
Oh, you would make it at least 18 years old who are United States citizens?
I'd say San Francisco residents who are at least 18 years old and U.S. citizens may register to vote. I just tie it in more together. Because if you take out that clause, then you're saying San Francisco residents may register and vote. But perhaps it's too grammatically nitpicky.
I took it out just because I thought it was wordy, but maybe that is a valid.
Well, I'd say San Francisco residents who are, I'd take out, unless you think it's hard to read, who are, I'd take out the comma after residents and after citizens. San Francisco who are at least 18 years old. And
yeah, well, I put that in just to make it a clause. So, yes.
But I just.
Yeah. Well, that's a good point, Michelle. That's why we have you here.
Well, I mean, it's a restrictive clause as opposed to an independent.
I bow to you. All right.
Chicago style manual too often. Ugh.
Anything else?
I believe that Peter and David were in the first sentence, San Francisco residents who are at least 18 years old.
Oh, yep. You are right.
Yeah, at least.
Is there anything else?
I just wanted to add that, we discussed this on a previous measure, so I didn't want it to go unremarked that you can register to vote before the age of 18 if you're going to be 18 on or before Election Day. So this sentence as written doesn't capture that nuance of the qualifications to register to vote. So possibly one solution to that, rather than adding all of that detail, would just be San Francisco residents who are at least 18 years old and United States citizens may vote in San Francisco elections, and just take out the register part. That way it's accurate.
Well, how do you feel, Michelle? Does that work for you? Scott?
Wait, tell me who
May vote.
May vote. Let's see.
Yeah.
May vote in San Francisco. Yeah, because that sort of encompasses whether they register or not. They can choose to vote in San Francisco. And the way that they do that is to go through all the steps, like maybe register to vote.
Which we're going to be discussing next week.
Yes, may vote. Yeah, okay.
Are you okay with that, Scott?
Yeah, we're splitting hairs. I don't think it really makes a lick of difference to the understanding of the voter.
Okay.
Okay. There are,
Well,
aren't there fewer words though?
It follows. We may vote, to vote. So I think that's fine. It's all right. if we don't have anything else, then I think it's time to open the floor to public comment. I see none.
Okay.
Do we need a reading, Betty?
I'm waiting. Yes, we do have a comment.
All right. David, you're live.
Oh no.
David, you're in public comment right now.
Yes, David.
Hold on.
Obviously, we're having trouble with David. Well, I guess if we're having trouble, we can close public comment and rely on him to appeal or ask for a reconsideration. We'll give him just 30 more seconds to get in here.
Need a reading. Fuck.
Oh, the glories of technology. When they work, they work. When they don't, they don't.
We have another one too.
All right, Francis, you're live, Francis.
Hi, thank you. I thank you very much for your work. I think what you've done is great. I mean, it's basically, it wasn't that difficult since it's the exact same measure as 2016. I would just say about waiting for David is that if he makes or recommends substantive changes that you guys might want to make, then we might have concerns because we actually like, and by the way, I'm speaking on behalf of Supervisor Normanese office. We are fine with what is here. We don't think what you've done is fine.
I know, but we can't wait for 5 minutes.
Oh yeah, no. I'm just saying if the next minute or so.
Yeah, that's what we're doing at the moment. And and I do see that it looks like he might be on. So, yeah, but we just can't sit and wait. As I said, technology is wonderful, isn't it?
Exactly. But we are supportive of.
But thank you,
what
Francis,
you've put
for your
forward.
comments. Yeah. David, are you on now? Yes, David? Yes, David? He appears to be gone. Is he gone?
Yeah, let's see.
Maybe his equipment isn't working.
Hello?
Hello?
Oops, let's see. Should be on. Hello.
Is he on?
Yeah, he's unmuted right now.
Okay. Yeah, you can hear me now?
Yes.
Sorry, I couldn't call in fast enough, and I thought you were going to do a reading beforehand. I think scanning this quickly, my only quick suggestion was under the proposal, local candidates include candidates for city offices, the maybe school district board of education. I mean, I'm trying to draw a parallel to community college because it's actually the San Francisco Community College District Board of Trustees and the San Francisco Unified School District Board of Education, but maybe it doesn't need to be parallel there. And I guess I'll look at this more carefully later. But in general, I think this probably captures it.
Thank you, David. Was there someone else? I thought I saw earlier someone else on the list. Peter, is that it?
That looks like it's everyone. I mean, yep, we're currently empty. No hands raised.
All right. Public comment is closed, and so I think we need a reading.
Okay. The way it is now,
Well, yeah, and then we will discuss the public comments.
Okay, excellent. The way it is now, San Francisco residents who are at least 18 years old and United States citizens may vote in San Francisco elections. San Francisco voters may vote on local and state candidates and ballot measures, as well as federal candidates. Proposition blank is a charter amendment that would allow San Francisco residents to vote on local candidates and local ballot measures if those residents are U.S. citizens, at least 16 years old, and registered to vote. Local candidates include candidates for city offices, the Board of Education, and the Community College Board of Trustees. Proposition blank would not permit 16 and 17-year-olds to vote on state candidates, state ballot measures, or federal candidates. A yes vote means if you vote yes, you want to amend the charter to allow San Francisco residents to vote on local candidates and local ballot measures if they are U.S. citizens, at least 16 years old, and registered to vote. A no vote means if you vote no, you do not want to make this change.
And the only suggestion that we had was from David, and he suggested that we might include the San Francisco Board of Education, the word San Francisco in front of Board of Education. I chose not to do that because that whole paragraph is concerning San Francisco. But I'm open to whatever the committee might suggest.
Hey, Michelle, you're muted right now.
City offices, the board of. City offices.
I mean, the whole first sentence says a charter amendment that would allow San Francisco residents. So it's obvious that they're probably not going to be. And it says local candidates include.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think that it would add much.
One of the things we've been trying to do, we want to make it clear. We also don't want to clog up the verbiage with such that the voter gets confused. So
well, what other possible board of education would there be?
Yeah, we walk a very tight line with trying to keep it simple for the voters and yet be very explicit. But that was my thought, that that whole paragraph was on San Francisco. We talk about local candidates, city offices, community college. So I didn't see the need to make a parallel there. But
and then in the next paragraph, it explicitly prohibits these
right. So
voting on state candidates, state ballot measures, or federal candidates.
And I thought that was needed to be terribly explicit there, which is why I did that. So does anybody else think that it does? Well, does anybody think it needs to be in there? Let's put it that way. Scott, I know you don't. Right? Correct?
It's fine the way it is. I think we should just move it forward.
All right. Lauren, you're happy with the way it is?
Yeah, I think because of the exclusion in the second paragraph in the proposal, I believe it's clear enough without Googling to see if there might be a potential place for confusion, but nothing's occurring to me, so I don't think there is.
Okay. All right. Well, we've not changed from the reading. So, Jenica, I think we're probably okay to just go ahead and have a vote, aren't we? Or do we have to have a final reading? We've had a reading and not made a change. So can we go ahead and have the vote as is?
Sorry, I'm doubly muted on my phone and on the device. Yes, you may vote.
Yes. All right. So then the chair entertains a motion to adopt. Michelle, you're off now.
Motion seconded.
All right. And all in favor? Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Then the measure is adopted. Now there is a process for appeal, and for that, we will ask that you, if you want this to be reconsidered in any way or any part, that you put in writing exactly what you would like for us to consider, and you have it in the office of the Department of Elections. Peter's going to put that slide on the screen by 4 p.m. tomorrow afternoon. That's 4 p.m. on Friday, July 24th. All right. The second measure up is the Sheriff's Department of Inspector General and Oversight Board. That's yours, Scott. Would you like to take the lead and we'll first start with having Peter read the deputy sheriff, or the deputy sheriff, the original draft by the city attorney.
All right, can everyone see this?
Yep.
Wonderful. The way it is now, the sheriff is elected by San Francisco voters. Under the city charter and state law, the sheriff's primary duties are to manage and operate city jails and to carry out the city's responsibilities regarding persons in custody in these facilities. These responsibilities include providing food and health care, as well as access to in-custody programs relating to education, job training, substance use, family-related services, and reentry. The Sheriff's Department has about 800 sworn employees who work under the Sheriff's direction. The Internal Affairs Bureau of the Sheriff's Department may investigate deaths of persons that occur in the department's custody, in custody deaths, and other employee misconduct. The Sheriff's Department also has a policy that governs the use of force by its sworn employees in carrying out their duties. There is no city department or city body dedicated solely to overseeing the sheriff or the sheriff's department. The district attorney may investigate and prosecute criminal misconduct committed by the sheriff's department staff, and the San Francisco Ethics Commission may investigate violations of conflict of interest and ethics laws. The proposal. Proposition blank would amend the charter to create the Sheriff's Department Office of Inspector General, OIG friends, and the Sheriff's Department of Oversight Board friends. The OIG would be a new city department separate from the Sheriff's Department and would operate under the Oversight Board's direction. The Inspector General would head this new department. The new OIG would have at least one investigator for every 100 sworn employees of the Sheriff's Department. Subject to certain limitations, the OIG would have the power to bullet, investigate certain complaints regarding Sheriff's Department's employees and contractors, bullet, investigate in-custody deaths unless that investigation would interfere with a law enforcement criminal investigation, bullet, recommend the sheriff take disciplinary action when the OIG determines an employee violated the law or sheriff department's policy. Bullet, make recommendations regarding the sheriff's department use of force policy, and bullet, monitor sheriff's department operations. In addition to the OIG, the Internal Affairs Bureau of the Sheriff's Department would maintain its ability to investigate in-custody deaths and employee misconduct. The Oversight Board would consist of 7 members, 4 appointed by the Board of Supervisors and 3 appointed by the mayor. Subject to certain limitations, the Oversight Board would have the power to appoint and remove the Inspector General and evaluate the performance of the OIG and the Inspector General individually. Seek input from the public and persons in custody regarding the Sheriff's Department's operations and jail conditions, and make recommendations to the Sheriff's Department regarding best practices. Subject to certain limitations, both the Oversight Board and the OIG would also have the power to hold hearings and to subpoena witnesses. A yes vote means, if you vote yes, you want to amend the charter to create a Sheriff's Department Office of Inspector General and a Sheriff's Department Oversight Board to investigate complaints regarding Sheriff's Department employees and contractors and in-custody deaths, seek input from the public and persons in custody, and make recommendations to the sheriff about the department's use of force policy disciplinary actions, and best practices. A no vote means if you vote no, you do not want to make this change.
Woo.
Yeah. Scott,
That's a mouthful
Scott, the floor is yours.
or page full.
Yeah, hi, folks. Good morning. I think that the city attorney did a really good job in the draft of the digest. This is sometimes complicated, I think, in part because the legislative digest actually differs from the charter amendment text that we have. And so when there was a difference, I went with the text of the charter amendment. As example, in the legislative digest, they say the Board of Supervisors appoints 3 and the mayor appoints 4, where in the actual charter, it's the other way around. And so I think there was just some changes. So I went with the text, okay? And that said, I believe that the city attorney did a really good job, and they were adhering principally, I'd say almost always, to the actual text of the charter amendment. I agreed with the city attorney's draft to sort of try to leave out the language about sort of the operational wonkiness, especially in terms of, this group is supposed to collaborate with that group and they're supposed to have access to do. I don't think the voter necessarily need to know that. So those are a couple of things from the charter amendment that I also agreed that I thought we should leave out. When I looked at the text, I mostly sort of moved some things around, very similar to what Betty did the other day, to make it read better. I didn't, some things that I didn't particularly like the change I made. I don't really like the current, in my version at least, 4th paragraph or 3rd paragraph, where we're trying to say that this is the only board that has oversight. No one has oversight right now, and this is the only group that would have oversight, and that their full purpose is to only oversee the sheriff or sheriff's department. So the word solely there, I don't know if that's great, but I went with it. The other place where I had a little bit of a challenge was in the yes vote. I really think I tried to clean that up and make it read a little bit better. The only other change I think you'll see that's a major change is I tended to use the word deputy and staff as opposed to employees, to separate out the idea that some of the employees are sworn deputies and the others are staff. Okay, and so those are some of the changes I made. So please help me out. Thank you.
All right, Scott, I saw 2 things that I would do. The first is in the first paragraph of the first line of the second paragraph, where you say directs the staff of about 800 sworn deputies and staff. I would just simply say the San Francisco Sheriff directs about 800 sworn deputies and staff.
Oh yeah, that's a good catch.
And the other one on the 3rd paragraph, which you're having problems with, I didn't have problem with it solely. But I did put in a word that there is no city department or city body dedicated solely to provide oversight of the sheriff. Now, I don't know.
That's a great idea.
All right, yeah, so yeah, solely to otherwise it should be oversee.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, okay.
But those are the only 2 I saw that jumped out at me. Other than that, thanks for paring down something that was really needed paring for us to all look at.
Well, the city attorney did a good job, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only thing that I saw now is part of the cleanup getting rid of extra spaces.
Sure.
Okay. But before that, in the first paragraph, in the way it is now, and I'm looking at, okay, does it say California state law? Is that what it says now? Because I just say required by California law L lowercase, unless it's a term of art that I don't know anything about.
Okay.
And then there are several places where there are extra spaces, but do I have to point those out or?
Sure.
I mean, I can do it after if you'd like.
Okay, yeah, I can just do a search and replace.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I have a very bad habit of still double spacing after a period. I know
that's
it's single space.
How things were. From
It's
what
just
I've been
knee
told.
jerk.
Well, yeah. But some
Yeah, old habits die hard. I understand that one.
No, yeah. That's apparently that was back in the days of typewriters. But
No, it was also after that.
oh, really? Because and then I thought that I saw a long dash, but I don't see it anymore. But in case you run into long dashes, they're supposed to have a space on either side, but I don't see this long dash anymore, so that's irrelevant. But aside from that, no, you did a great job. I mean, this is and the draft that I sort of fiddled around with, bullet point, the phrases should start with an initial cap. Under subject to certain limitations, the OIG would have the power to, and then cap, investigate, recommend, make, monitor, refer.
Didn't we do that?
Yeah, aren't these?
Okay, so I maybe, okay, but that's all I see now.
Okay. Now we hear from Lauren. She's sitting there quietly. I'm sure
Peter, can you scroll up to the way it is now?
Uh-huh.
So I appreciate the changes here. It's done a lot to clean things up. I think that writing sworn deputies and staff grammatically implies that the staff are also sworn. So if we could just switch those to staff. Oh wait, Jessica's got her hand up.
Are those sworn?
Maybe about this point.
Yes, I just thought I'd chime in here because I do have a comment on this point, and it is confusing, and I understand why it's not straightforward. So, sworn deputy is actually it's under-inclusive. So within the sheriff's department, there are various ranks of sworn employees, and it starts at deputy, but then it goes up the chain of command. Deputy, lieutenant, sergeant, assistant sheriff, all of those are covered by this when you are accounting for the number of sworn employees. So you can't use deputy interchangeably. It's actually inaccurate. This 800 sworn employees and staff, that would also be inaccurate because there are many members of the sheriff's department who are staff who are unsworn. And the 800 number only accounts for peace officers. Peace officer and sworn employee, those are essentially interchangeable terms, but neither is inherently helpful to a voter. So I appreciate the struggle and the sort of inclination to want to use deputy as shorthand, but it's not correct. If we want, we can include sworn employees, and then we can, in the words you need to know, elaborate on what that term is. And I can offer you some suggestions about that.
So you're saying employees is the only word you would use there?
You could use sworn employees or peace officers.
Okay.
Either would be accurate, but deputy is under-inclusive.
I don't like the parentheses. I would leave it employees.
You would leave it what?
Employees.
Okay.
And then further down, you may need to do a find and replace. I used the word deputy a couple of other times. And that may be incorrect.
Yeah, so at the bottom of that paragraph, it says sworn deputies.
Right.
That'll require it.
And it happens a couple other times too.
Well, okay, so you're saying that the provisions of this measure would apply only to sworn employees?
Correct. the OIG does not have jurisdiction to investigate non-sworn members of the
I
department.
see. Okay. Yeah, we would have to. Yeah, I don't know if that would. Well, sworn.
Do we think it's necessary to make that distinction or not?
Now, sworn.
I didn't because, we can really get into
Yeah.
trying to, we lose the story by trying to over include the differences, the things
Yes.
that this doesn't do. And I focused more on the things it did do.
Yeah.
It does rather than what it doesn't do. Right. Lauren, we only heard your very first comment. You have more?
Yes, thank you, Betty. So in the way it is now in the third paragraph, we capitalize city department and city body. Previously, when we used the term city body in a measure, we had to find that term, and usually when we capitalize terms that are not the names of an existing department, we would define these. So either these need to be lowercase or we need to do our parenthetical thing.
And that's a good call. I'm surprised Michelle didn't catch it.
There's a lot to, there's a little cleanup to do. I think we're just gonna.
City body.
Oh, yeah, we went all through that yesterday. We're looking for we're looking for a term. Yesterday, the whole measure was dealing with city bodies. And we tried everything in the world to come up with an alternative. So if you can come up with an alternative for reconsideration, we would be very, very happy. I did see that it was listed.
Lowercase is kind of a problem because city body. I mean,
yeah. When we used it before, we use it we defined it with a parens first. And then we used it as a shorthand.
Yeah, because
it's needed here.
Reference.
Can we, instead of saying city body here, would entity work? We don't use that word either, but I think we like it more than body.
Yeah, because that really does pop out since it's the first reference or city entity.
And do we need both cities in that, Michelle, do you think?
City department or entity.
City department or entity.
I would probably.
Could we replace entity with agency?
Unless that has. Unless it has a specific definition.
There's also
agency.
I believe agency is a bit restricted, but Jennifer's got a hands up on that.
Or organization, would that work?
Well, we're talking about something within the city that has oversight, and there is none. So, but we said there's no department.
There's no department, or
I was trying to get away from the word entity, which we tried to get away from yesterday. We also tried to get away from the word body.
So what are we referring to when what is a non-department entity, for example? Like a commission, a board?
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly it. That's why I thought maybe.
How about city department, board, or commission?
Yeah.
Unless something else. Yeah, we may have to add more words to get around body.
Yeah, I agree.
Does that change all right with you, Scott?
Yeah, that's.
Sorry, yeah, any change y'all make is fine with me. I mean, I've had my say by preparing the draft, so change it, please, however you would like. I'm good with all changes.
Well, we got rid of body.
Yeah, right. City.
I was celebrating the new concept.
Yeah, that vile word. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Yes. All right. Well, all right. Then anything else, Lauren?
Not in the way it is now, no. I don't know if we're doing this section by section or.
No, we're,
Since my,
everybody's given their piece, so we continue.
wait, since the caffeine hasn't quite kicked in, when we have an explanatory parenthetical, do we use
The quotes, no,
Okay, so then we got to take them out.
right.
Okay, so we don't use. I didn't think we did.
Betty, before we move on from this section, I had one other comment.
All right, you're on.
Scott had revised or added the sentence, revised the sentence related to the functions of the Ethics Commission. The new draft reads, the city's Ethics Commission may investigate violations of standards of professionalism. And that is also, could potentially be misleading. Members of the Sheriff's Department have separate professional standards, like the post standards, and laws that they are subject to under the government code related to their functions as peace officers, which the Ethics Commission wouldn't have jurisdiction over. The Ethics Commission solely has jurisdiction over the city's ethics laws. So I think the original may have said conflicts of interest and ethics laws. Conflicts of interest are encompassed in ethics laws. And I appreciate that it's sort of duplicative, ethics and ethics, but that's technically what they do. And I think standards of professionalism could be inaccurate, particularly in this context.
I didn't like that change at all. So I think if we went back to ethics laws, that'd be fine.
All right. Anything else, Jenica?
Not in this section.
All right, so we're going to the proposal. Well, we're you're on mic, Jenica. Do you?
Oh, wait, sorry. Apologies. I did have one other correction. And this change was made below as well. There was a revision that says the city attorney may investigate and prosecute criminal misconduct. That is also inaccurate. It's the district attorney.
Oh, yeah, my bad.
Where is this? Oh, okay, the district attorney. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's below as well.
Yes, yes. And that's what I was reserving my comment for, but it's here is what I'm saying. So.
Oh, well, we thought you just might like an extra job.
Yeah.
So I think they're in the third, fourth bullet you just passed.
Yeah.
It says, this one I don't know. Should it be refer cases to the city attorney or should it be refer cases to the district attorney? I think in the original, it was implied that it was the district attorney.
Huh.
That is correct. It's the latter. It's the district attorney.
Oh, okay.
And then further down,
And there's a
criminal
typo.
misconduct may still be referred to the district attorney.
Is there missing S?
Right there, right? Just don't move. The Sheriff's Internal Affairs Bureaus will maintain its ability to investigate because the next sentence, by the district attorney.
Okay, criminal. Now, in the sentence above, should it be ethics as an S? Ethics?
Yeah, it was missing an S.
Okay.
All right, Jenica, we were talking over you while we were finding the district versus the city. You had another comment?
Michelle caught it.
Okay, all right. That's all that you found in the proposal that,
Correct.
all right, Lauren?
So looking at the proposal, this is, I might need to, Michelle weigh in. Further down, we list the appointees that can be made and we count them. And there are numbers, and I believe that these need to be written per AP guide.
I thought that those were fixed. I guess I may have been looking at the wrong draft.
Yeah, so 7, 4, and 3 need to be written out.
Yeah.
However, 4 in 4-year terms stays as a number.
No, it doesn't. No, because it's
No?
not an age. It's just a.
Oh, age, right. Okay, this is why this is why I always want to check with you. You're the walking guide.
People would think that, but I've been burned so much on that.
Yeah.
Issue in the past.
So it goes back, so
Peter, the dash should still remain.
Yeah,
Right.
the hyphen. Yeah. Now, if this was the age of the terms, like terms that were 4 years old, then you would have a numeral.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Peter, can we go back up to the top? Sorry, at the top of the proposition.
Proposal, right here.
Yeah, sorry. There's an urge to, I think Scott did a great job really tightening things up in something that was sprawling. It's still, and looking at the third bullet, it's still a little sprawling to me. I just don't know if it's necessary for us to have all the detail about when disciplinary action can be taken in this digest. You know, when they violated law or when they violated department policy. So I think we might be able to take out everything after the word action, but you know, I might be over cutting. So I'd love to hear from other folks.
Well,
And we could say recommend the sheriff take appropriate appropriate disciplinary action, maybe.
Maybe we could tighten that up, but I think it's important, since these are new powers, that while we're not getting into the total weeds, we are at least saying that the sheriff takes disciplinary action when the IOG determines. And I think we could be tighten it up, but I think it's important that we leave the concept that it's not only, but also when the OIG determines that there's a problem.
Sure. So maybe instead, what if we said when the OIG determines an employee violated law or policy, and not get into the weeds about which law and which policy?
Yeah, I think it could be tightened up a little, but I think Scott called it when he says that, you know, we do need a little, I mean, yes, the OIG has the power to recommend the sheriff take disciplinary action, but
yeah,
this actually spells out, you know, why.
Yeah. So
this, oh, sorry, if I may. My rationale here is I always tried to add, you'll notice, sheriff department policy, or I tried to put a qualifier to narrow the scope.
Right.
Because I think that the intent of the amendment was to focus very narrowly upon the department's operations. So, for example, if an employee violated city policy, all right, the OIG would not have responsibility to recommend that to the sheriff, right? That would be the sheriff's own internal affairs department, right? So that was the only reason. That there are other policies that these people could conceivably violate that are not the purview of the OIG. That's the only reason I left that sheriff's department in there.
And I appreciate that, because as just an average person who's reading the newspapers today, we could just say, they could assume that the OIG could say, well, sheriff, take disciplinary action over this guy because he said something to me I don't like, or he's not a person that I think should represent the department, or he stopped me for speeding or whatever. And at least this sets out that the employee has violated the law, you know. I think spelling out what disciplinary action is just kind of clarifies and takes away some of the, oh yeah, kind of thing. But I like the fact that we've tightened it up. Anything else, Lauren?
That was the stuff that jumped out at me. I feel like there was somewhere, and I'm trying to find it, where we had basically a possessive and then another possessive. I'm not sure if it is still
maybe-
there. Scott might have caught it.
Well, maybe we
Yeah,
can catch it in the reading.
Ethics Commission, is that what you're referring to?
Sorry, Michelle, what was that?
In the last bullet, cities, apostrophe S, Ethics Commission?
No, I'll see if I can catch it in the read through. Scott might have already ditched it.
You could take out the possessive there in the fourth bullet. I think that it could just be the City Ethics Commission. That's fine.
Yeah.
True.
Now, this, of course, is a basic question. In the lead into the bullet points, no, actually, right. For example, in the first bullet point, would this refer to complaints about sworn employees, or just all employees and contractors? Like, would the contractors have to be sworn? I just don't know.
The way that the charter amendment is written is that they would have oversight over all employees and contractors.
Okay, all of them, sworn
Yes.
and not sworn.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I think it would be helpful then to add the word all before employees and contractors,
Oh.
since we, in the paragraph before, distinguish sworn employees.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
I have no thought one way or the other. It's up to,
okay. All employees. Okay.
Scott, do you think that clarifies it or not?
No, I think it makes it more confusing.
Really? Why?
We're the story here is that this Office of the Inspector General is going to be able to investigate complaints about the Sheriff's Department.
Okay.
Right? That's the story. Now, whether we get into the details of what particular components, right? I think that all employees and contractors, to me, is a good middle ground. Right? All right. It's all good. You change it how you want. I'm sorry. I've had my voice here.
Well, no. I mean, do you think that it would slow a voter down with this?
I would just do Sheriff's Department's employees and contractors.
I'd still like all, but that's to make it very clear that this would apply to, because we have made a distinction above between as regarding the scope of authority over sworn.
So the actual text of the charter amendment that applies in that section reads, receive, review, and investigate complaints against SFSD, San Francisco Sheriff's Department, employees and SFSD contractors. Provided, however, that the OIG shall refer complaints alleging criminal misconduct to the district attorney and refer complaints alleging violations of ethics laws to the Ethics Commission.
Well, see, that takes away the all then, doesn't it?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Certain complaints, yeah. Okay.
Just trying to simplify language, the word regarding, could we just say about? Or into? Regarding is a very formal word there.
Yeah. Certain complaints.
No,
About.
I don't like about.
Yeah.
Into?
Certain complaints. I mean, the other phrase that's typically used is with respect to, which I really don't like.
Yeah.
I really don't like that.
Concerning is the only other word, so I think,
Yeah.
but I have no concern. I have no concern about concern or regarding.
Yeah. Concerning, that would be an N. So, yeah, because it's, yeah.
Do you like that better than regarding or not?
I think that they're equally good. I just think that about is too,
Yeah, yes, I don't like it either.
it's too something. I don't know what.
Well, then I would go, if you then I would go back to Scott's original regarding, because concerning and regarding are exactly the same thing.
Or and we can't use the shorthand RE colon.
No.
Huh.
Where are you concerned? What are you looking at, Michelle?
Nothing. Sheriff's Department, that's okay.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Anything else, Lauren?
See any stray apostrophes? I'm trying.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Scott.
I found the double possessive that Michelle was concerned about. I think it's in the first bullet where it's sheriff's departments.
Oh, that, yeah.
Thank you, Scott.
I was concerned about it. The sheriff's department employee,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, maybe that makes it better.
It happens again. It happens again in bullet 4 or 5.
Make recommendations. Okay. Sheriff's, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Sheriff's. Okay.
Okay. All right. Anything
That's what
else?
the double negative shows.
And see, you saw it and I didn't. So good calls.
There's a double negative. Where? What?
We caught it.
Oh. Okay.
That's what I said. I didn't catch it, so I'm glad you did. Anything else, Lauren? Have you finished or your overview or?
Yeah, I think we've done a lot here. I don't know that it's possible to get away from some of the language issues since we've already battled with some of them. I think there's a trend there that I'm seeing. So I'll lean back on the rest of those.
Well, if you have one, we can at least consider it.
No, it's fine. Thank you.
Well, that's what we're here for, though, is to hear each other's comments, and we're all big boys and girls here.
Or trying to be.
Yes. Well, Scott, have you anything else to say? You're good?
I think maybe it would help, since it's so hard to see all of it on the screen at one time, to have a reading of it at this point.
I was just going to say, if
Yeah,
nobody else has it.
I'm sorry. I thought we were just done with the proposal. I wanted just to look at the yes vote and the no vote because there is something in the no vote. It's such a long one. I think I wasn't clear that we were going through the whole thing each time.
Okay. All right.
Betty, I did have one just grammatical correction, if I may.
Sure.
Where it says the Board of Supervisors appointees, it should be Board of Supervisors, plural, with the apostrophe following the S.
One of the board. Oh, right. Yes. S apostrophe. Good catch.
Okay.
And the other comment in this sentence that says labor and union issues, that may be just unnecessarily duplicative unless we feel like it's helping the voter. And if it is, no problem. But I mean, union is encompassed in labor issues. So I would pick one, union or labor. They're essentially, I mean, not all labor forces are unionized, right? So I feel like labor is the broader term, but you could pick one if you wanted.
Well, what would they, what does it
Well,
say?
the reason I left it that way,
because labor is used to, I mean, these days it's a broader term than it was when I was in law school. Now it means management too. But,
Okay.
Well, and it obviously applies to non-unionized forces and interests in trying to become unionized. But the legislation says, I believe, I'm having some technical difficulties, so I don't have it pulled up at the moment, but Scott can correct me if I'm wrong. I think it says someone with labor representation experience. Is that right, Scott?
yes, with experience in labor representation. So I was trying to get out of the word representation and argue that well, most of the representation of labor is done by union.
If that's the case, I would just say unions, but
Well, I don't know if that's really true because one of the major union busting law firms in San Francisco describes itself as being in labor law.
I mean, they technically are because they are on the management side of that legal issue, right?
Yes.
But I think, labor representation, a group of people who have collectively bargained are represented by a union. That is their vehicle. So you could say union issues, but I don't know if that's unreasonably vague without the context of the word labor. So you can leave it as is. It's fine. I just thought I'd offer that.
Yeah, because I'm just not sure.
so Michelle would leave it. Scott, you
Yeah.
you
Because
wrote this. Would you leave it?
Well, because if we limit it to labor, and I mean, it could be. I mean, would that necessarily exclude a person who has labor experience, but on the management side?
Well, no, the specific, the language, this is the language, refers strictly to representation of labor, right? Not management. So section, let's see, it's seat 4 shall be held by a person with experience in labor representation.
Correct. Representation
So that would
of
be
workers,
union.
not labor representation indicates you are representative of a laborized workforce or a labor unionized workforce.
We could say worker rights if we wanted to go away from labor union issues.
I think that encompasses other issues, and like
a little bit.
worker rights encompasses things that are, discrimination and reasonable accommodation and issues that are outside the purview of labor unions. So
I think he was being facetious, Jenica.
Well,
it's hard. I couldn't see him, so you can't read the.
Labor union issues. Yeah, because I just wanted to be clear that this doesn't apply to somebody who has management.
Why don't you say experience representing unions?
Yeah, I think that would clarify it because since I am a member of a union, not that anyone cares, but
Well, you represent the union guild, so.
Or representing labor unions. Maybe that would be a little clearer.
And we do have management unions in the television industry.
Well, technically, that wouldn't be a disqualifier, right? If you're representing, if you're representing individuals, regardless of their functions, against the people that manage them, then it would still qualify. You just have to be on the employee side of the subordinate, management relationship.
That's right.
So everybody thinks this is clear. Everybody's happy with this. Scott, are you happy with this change?
Yeah, I mean, I went around brainstorming different concepts for labor representation. This one's fine.
Lauren,
Jenica, I can't hear you.
Jenica, your mute is off. Jenica,
Yes, I'm not talking. Can you hear me?
yes, your mute is off.
I think your screen is just doing a little feedback if you're not talking.
Yeah, I wasn't talking. So
Okay.
I've been having some connectivity. Sorry, but I can hear you clearly because you're on my phone. So.
Okay. Oh, all right.
I think her screen is doing something that she is no longer doing.
Exactly. That's true. Okay, I'll turn the screen off till I figure this out.
Okay.
Technology.
All right. So, and Lauren, you like the change as well?
I think this is good, and I appreciated the conversation to make sure that we were being clear. I think this was a good conversation.
Okay. All right. Are we then through with the proposal? If so, then we're going into the yes vote because I understand, Lauren, you said you had something to consider.
Well, I think the no vote. I'm looking at both the yes and the no vote. I know we almost never talk about the no vote, but this is here would be you do not want to make these changes. We usually.
Yeah, there's 2 of them, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Well, I'm okay with that. It is a change to the city charter, which is why I left it singular.
Mhm.
The chart, I don't know. So this change to the charter does two things, but does it make two changes to the charter?
Well, it does, but I do, no, well, but I do think that what we're doing is for the voter, and so we're telling the voter there's more than one that they're voting on, so.
Okay, that's fine.
But, you know, I think changes is a good, I did the same thing in another one when there should have been two and there was one, and, you know, but I think when we say, when we're talking to the voter, we're going, yes, you want to make you want these changes to occur. No, you don't want these changes to occur, rather than a change and let them figure out that all of it is inclusive. You know, some people don't understand the all inclusiveness. Anything else?
This just makes me think the other day that we decided in a different measure that the first time we mentioned the city charter, we were going to, and we did call out in parens, charter, so that we could just use charter throughout if we wanted to make that change for consistency in this measure to match what we decided the other day.
Okay, did we make that change?
Yeah, I don't remember the parens being called out here, but I know we used charter. Yeah, so the first time we use it seems to be
the proposal.
Proposal. So then we would just put a parens after that, and then any other use after that in the proposal, we could just say charter.
Right. Yeah.
It's sorry again. This one's so long, and Scott, you made so many wonderful changes, and you know, it's back and forth, up and down.
Is that the first place that we're using the charter? Because I hate it there.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, is that the only place we use it besides at the beginning of the yes vote and then at the beginning of the
yeah, and I mean, if we're not using it any other place,
then we don't need the parens.
Except for the yes vote.
I don't remember using charter a lot in this.
And
Yeah.
I just think I hate adding a parens there. Because
Yeah, I agree. I'm just now surprised looking at how it isn't mentioned before. But that's fine.
I think it's pretty much dependent upon the measure itself and how complicated it makes it. In that particular proposal, putting it in there, I think, detracts from the actual action that we're asking the voter to take.
Sure, yeah, and I just wanted to look back because it was in the original more, but Scott took it out, and I think for very good reason. So, kind of preventing the problem. Thanks for the opportunity to look back over that for consistency.
Yeah, well, that's what you're here for. We appreciate you bringing it to our attention. It's just that now maybe somebody else likes it, but Scott took it out, and I hate it in that place, and so that's two of us. Now maybe.
You know, and to be clear, I'm withdrawing because we don't need the parens if we're not using the shorthand again.
Yeah, okay, all right. And then we're down to the, yes, so, all right, shall we have a read through to see if we find anything in the read through? So, Peter?
All right. The full thing?
Yes, the whole thing.
Great. The way it is now, the sheriff is elected by San Francisco voters. In San Francisco, the sheriff's primary duties are managing and operating city jails, to be responsible for persons in custody or on parole, and preserving the peace as required by California law. The San Francisco sheriff directs about 800 sworn employees. Under state law, the Board of Supervisors has no power to control the sheriff in the performance of their duties. Sheriff's Office oversight generally is the responsibility of the Sheriff's Bureau of Internal Affairs. The district attorney may investigate and prosecute criminal misconduct by the sheriff and sheriff's department employees. The city's ethics commission may investigate violations of ethics laws. The sheriff's department also has a policy that governs the use of force by its sworn employees. There is no city department, board, or commission dedicated solely to provide oversight of the sheriff or the sheriff's department. The proposal. Proposition blank would amend the city charter to create the Sheriff's Department Office of Inspector General, parens OIG, and the Sheriff's Department Oversight Board, parens. The OIG would be a new city department independent of the Sheriff's Department. An Inspector General would head this new department. The new OIG would have at least one investigator for every 100 sworn employees of the Sheriff's Department. The OIG would report to the Oversight Board and provide information and recommendations to the Sheriff. Excuse me. Subject to certain limitations, the OIG would have the power to bullet, investigate certain complaints regarding Sheriff's Department employees and contractors, bullet, investigate in-custody deaths unless that investigation would interfere with a law enforcement criminal investigation, bullet, recommend the sheriff take disciplinary action when the OIG determines an employee violated law or Sheriff's Department policy, bullet, make recommendations regarding the Sheriff's Department use of force policy, bullet, monitor Sheriff's Department operations, and bullet, refer cases to the district attorney or the city ethics commission. The Sheriff's Internal Affairs Bureau would maintain its ability to investigate in-custody deaths, violations of department policies, and employee misconduct. Criminal misconduct may still be referred to the district attorney. The Oversight Board would consist of 7 members, 4 appointed by the Board of Supervisors, 3 appointed by the mayor, each serving 4-year terms. One of the Board of Supervisors appointees must be a person with experience representing labor unions. Subject to certain limitations, the Oversight Board would have the power to, bullet, appoint, evaluate, renew, and remove the Inspector General, bullet, evaluate the performance of the Office of the Inspector General, and bullet, seek input from the public and persons in custody regarding the Sheriff's Department's operations and jail conditions. Based on information from the Office of the Inspector General and its own processes, the Oversight Board would make no fewer than 4 reports a year to the Sheriff and the Board of Supervisors. The Oversight Board is also responsible for an annual report to the Sheriff and the Board of Supervisors about the activity of the OIG and the Oversight Board during that year. Subject to certain limitations, both the Oversight Board and the OIG would have the power to hold hearings and subpoena witnesses. Proposition blank would not prohibit or limit the Sheriff from investigating the conduct of an employee or contractor or taking disciplinary or corrective action. A yes vote means if you vote yes, you want to amend the city charter to create a Sheriff's Department Office of Inspector General and a Sheriff's Department Oversight Board that would make recommendations to the Sheriff and the Board of Supervisors about the operations of the Sheriff's Department. A no vote means if you vote no, you do not want to make these changes.
Question.
Yes, Michelle?
Okay, is it, and this was bugging me a little bit in terms of consistency, is it the Office of the Inspector General or Office of Inspector General? Because we have both ways.
Well, there's 2 things, right? There is an Inspector General, a person, and then there is the Office of the Inspector General, which is a collective.
Yeah, but I think that we have
There are both
ways. We have the Office of Inspector General and the Office of the Inspector General.
Where are we looking?
Well, I think that in the first mention, unless in the very first reference.
I see it now.
Where?
The-
Oh, listen.
Okay, Office.
You've got based.
Yeah, okay. Is it the Office of Inspector General or Office of the Inspector General?
Where are you looking?
Based
Right
on,
under the
based
bullets.
on information from. Okay, because here we have in a bullet, evaluate the performance of the Office of the Inspector General, and then we have
In the first line.
information from the Office of Inspector General. So is it the Inspector General or just of Inspector General?
Oh, I understand.
Yeah, I mean, what's the official name?
Let's put the.
Should it be the?
No, not there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's the Office of the Inspector General. Yeah.
I didn't pay attention to that as I was writing.
It,
I could have used it both ways.
Which is it? Office of the Inspector General or Office of Inspector
Well,
General?
when we look at the,
It does not have the in the legislative text, at least in the first page.
Whatever is correct, you know?
Yeah, well, OIG usually doesn't include the, I would think, but Scott, have you found any difference in?
You're the expert.
I think it's okay if we say
Office of
Office
Inspectors?
of Inspector General.
Okay, can we make that change throughout?
I just did a control F search on the digital doc, and it's Office of Inspector General throughout.
Okay, good.
Okay. So we're okay everywhere else?
Mhm.
There was one place and.
I think we had a couple places where it has the Inspector General.
Jennifer has her hand up.
There's a double negative in the fourth bullet there, Sheriff's Departments.
You mean, because that's.
Nope. Yeah.
Yeah, Jenica, let me make my comment before you come in here. My up in the way it is now. Stop. In the second paragraph, it says the district attorney may investigate and prosecute criminal misconduct by the sheriff and the sheriff's department employees. Can we cut out the second sheriff and say prosecute criminal misconduct by the sheriff and department employees?
I don't know that we can because we have other departments.
Yeah.
I'm just asking. What do you?
Unless we.
But we're thinking about that. Peter, would you just go forward in the same sentence? And again, the Ethics Commission is not the city doesn't possess it. So it's just the City Ethics Commission.
City Ethics Commission, okay.
Thank
Do we have that?
All right, I see what you're saying. I just thought it was an extra word that we could eliminate because
It's a good thought, Betty, but there's
people get bogged down when you keep going sheriff this and sheriff that, and sheriff this.
yeah.
Yeah.
We run across this a lot. That was earlier when I was trying to get rid of some streets words. Yeah. In the first paragraph, Michelle, this is where I would love your thoughts. I think there's a structural issue in the sentence. So in San Francisco, the sheriff's primary duties are to be responsible. So it matches, but to be responsible versus managing and then preserving.
Okay.
I'm not saying it's not wrong, but I'm not sure it has a flow that isn't confusing.
Well,
I wanted to use responsibling, but that would have been worse.
That's a problem.
Yeah, Scott, I really see what you did, and it's not an incorrect sentence, but I'm not sure.
It's just a little clunky, yeah.
Yeah, our managing, to be,
being responsible for.
Technically, you could say being responsible for, so that would parallel it.
Being responsible for.
And preserving the peace as required by Cal. Yeah, sure.
Is it be or being?
Being,
managing, being, preserving.
because we have managing, operating, being, preserving. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Third paragraph in the way it is now. There is no city department, board, or commission dedicated solely to providing oversight.
To providing, okay. Yeah, to providing oversight. Okay. We got all cities' ethics commissions fixed.
Is that correct, Michelle? Solely to providing oversight? You can't just say solely to provide oversight?
So
I'm not sure why we need the ing.
Well, it's more like what's the word? Taxi. Which sounds better? Solely to providing, dedicated. Okay, it's dedicating to providing. Yeah, it's dedicated to providing oversight. Yeah, because we had dedicated to providing.
So we can't say dedicated to provide, right? It doesn't work. Is that what you're saying?
There's no dedicated to, well, that's sort of strange usage.
Okay, all right.
I think people would probably say it like this or think it like this, and it's not grammatically incorrect.
Maybe one of the issues is the word solely kind of being in the middle of that.
Yeah,
So we could either remove the word solely entirely because dedicated kind of gets to that idea, or we could move the word solely.
Dedicated to providing. Well, or you could say dedicated to the oversight of, but then
Dedicated to the, yeah.
To the I mean, because you can say dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal.
Yeah, Michelle, that's great. I think that's really good.
So whatever reads easier.
I'm looking at that. Well,
I mean, if that's accurate, but Jenica raised her hand, so maybe.
Yes, I know. Jenica, you have a comment?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So in the first sentence of the way it is now, I missed this the first time. It was revised to say being responsible for persons in custody or on parole. I'm not familiar, and Scott, feel free to correct me if you found something that says otherwise, but I'm not familiar with the Sheriff's Department having, they certainly don't have a primary role with respect to parolees. We have a separate adult probation department, and that's their exclusive function. I mean, I can't say for sure they don't ever do anything with parolees because I'm having a hard time verifying that at the moment, but I think that could be inaccurate, and I would, if I had to wager, I would say it is inaccurate. I would remove on parole.
Yeah, you know, I think you could remove that. That would be fine. I added that because, you know, there was this sort of laundry list of things the Sheriff's Department did. And I think in the comments, you'll see ask 3 people, you'll get 3 different lists of what the Sheriff's Department does. So I went to the Sheriff's Department website, looked at their mission, read their organizational structure, and I was like, well, maybe I should be something that implied that it's more than just persons in custody. And that's where I think I picked up the parole from. But it was strictly an editorial choice on my part. So I'm totally cool with because I think the emphasis here is on persons in the jail. I mean, that's
and that's
how
their
really
primary function. 80% of what they do relates to persons in custody. And like you said, there is a laundry list of other things. They serve warrants and they provide security for city buildings, but and they do have a variety of programs, but I believe those programs are as to in custody persons, not once they've left the custody of the city.
So I think, you know, the way I contextualize this is I think custody is fine, and then I just put in this sort of very broad concept of preserving the peace, right? Because that's sort of like all their other actions, whether they're transporting a prisoner or they're serving a warrant or they're protecting a building, is preserving the peace, right? That's where I came up with that.
So to clarify, I'm finally getting some clarification. In certain, like, as you can tell from this digest, the sheriff is a state constitutional officer, so they do have some jurisdictional authority over state parolee issues, but it's very niche. It's not predominantly what they're doing. I think it would be best to remove the reference.
And if we do that, Michelle, do we need the comma there or not?
And being responsible for
Being responsible for persons in custody and preserving the peace as required by California.
Yeah, we don't need it, but if you take it out, would it be more difficult to read?
I don't know.
I like it there since there's a lot of
stuff, so I would leave it in.
Yeah, agree. I do wonder, do we need so this is do we need a comma after the word peace? Because is as required by California law just about preserving the peace?
If we put it there, then we got to take it out somewhere else because we're just cutting up this
Yeah.
no man's
Well,
land.
why would we have to, if we put a comma there, we would have to take out the serial comma. Is that?
Well, no, these in San Francisco, preserving the peace as required by. So that would apply to to all the previous clauses, right?
Right, as it's written now without the comma after peace, as required by California law, only applies to preserving the peace. If we put a comma after peace, then as required by California law applies to all of the things in that list. I just don't know the way the sentence is written, which is a comma supposed to be there or not, and Scott might be able to help us since he wrote this.
The primary
Pick one.
duties-
They're both correct. They both make no difference to the purpose of this story, which is helping the voter understand what's going on. So whether or not the operating city jail is required by California law or not, I don't think makes a big difference. So go with whichever one you want.
I would leave it out because
everything is required by California law, right?
That's what I'm asking. Without it's a grammar issue. I think having the proper grammar will be helpful for the voters to understanding. But Michelle, that's where I appreciate your help figuring it out.
You're saying that without the comma, one could read this to apply to mean that preserving the peace is the only thing required by California law?
Yeah. And one of my things when I work with lawyers, sometimes we get a little finicky about commas. So that one jumped out at me.
Yeah.
I am definitely not a comma expert. So that's,
It could be read that way. So maybe we have to move the clause as required by California law. But
that's preserving the peace as required by California law is all inclusive and I just think when we start setting it off, then that's
fine. I just wanted to ask Michelle if there was a grammatical issue there.
Well, but,
it's fine.
It's more okay. You could say in San Francisco, the sheriff's primary duties, comma, as required by California law, comma, are managing and operating city jails, being responsible, blah blah blah. I mean, then the legal requirement is a little bit buried, but I think I
see what I see what you're saying, and that makes sense. So you would say the sheriff is elected by San Francisco voters. In San Francisco, the sheriff's primary duties, as required by California law, are managing and operating city jails, etc. Now, does that change the focus of the California law?
Well, I mean, it buries it a bit, but I think it removes any ambiguity.
Scott, you've got the legislation in front of you. Does operating city jails and being responsible for persons in custody, is that part of California law?
Yes.
Okay. Would you agree then to moving that last up to say the sheriff's primary duties are?
I think it makes no difference to the information the voter needs to know.
Okay.
So,
I just think it flows better to move it up there than to start adding bunches of commas and confusing the.
Yeah, that's a point. That's an excellent point. I mean, when in doubt, just rephrase or restructure.
Yeah, that flows better than starting to put in all kinds of. However, we can look at it, and we will have a reconsideration process. We may change our minds over the weekend as we think about it.
Yeah.
If we have nothing else to say,
Betty. I don't know. So preserving the peace, being responsible persons in custody, operating state jails, yes, those are things that are covered by California law, but some of those powers, I'm not exhaustively familiar with every aspect, but I wouldn't be surprised if some of them are also articulated locally. And I'm not sure that the voters need to know that it's required by California law.
Yeah,
I
I'm
mean,
sitting here thinking maybe we should just take it out.
Yeah, that's an option.
I think you can take it out because then you don't get into the issue of is this
What is what?
encompassing or not, and what's the source. I mean, I don't know if that's essential for them.
Oh, okay, great.
Yep. That helps all of us, I think.
Great.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a great approach. Yes.
Yeah. All right.
I had a couple of other, I think another grammatical issue, sorry. There's that sentence that had the 4 and the 3 and the 7. So that, that.
4, the 3.
There it is. So the Oversight Board would consist of 7 members.
Oh, there's missing comma, right? Each serving 4-year terms.
Yeah, we're missing. It's instead of a comma after supervisors, we need the word and.
Well, no, I was thinking of a comma after mayor.
And also a comma after mayor.
Yeah. Okay. It's 7 members.
Together, Michelle, we get it.
4 appointed by the Board of Supervisors and 3 appointed by the mayor, comma, each serving 4-year term. Yeah.
And is that 1 space as opposed to 2 after that period?
What? What'd you say, Jenica?
2.
For consistency, I think we're 1 space after a period, not 2 spaces. Is that?
Oh, yeah.
Peter was going to do maybe a universal later as a formatting. Then there's a sentence. Sorry, Peter, you might need to do a Control F for this. And it says during that year, and it also says annually. It's not wrong, but normally we don't. If we say annually, we also then don't say the period of time that the annual report covers. We might be able to just take out during that year at the end of that, but that's
an annual report about the well.
We usually don't define the reporting period, but we could, but we don't usually. Not that I remember.
Well,
is it helpful? Is a different question.
Yeah, I think it's helpful.
Okay.
Scott, did you have a particular reason for leaving it there? I think it might be helpful, but I'm not sure if I'm correct or not.
It was about 2/3 of a page of the code change. And so I'm trying to, that's how I've reduced it. So I'm okay with any change y'all want to make there.
I would still be in favor of getting rid of it. I think it's not helpful detail for the voter, but
yeah, probably an annual, because it reads then responsible for an annual report to the sheriff and the Board of Supervisors about the activity of the OIG and the Oversight Board. Yeah.
We don't talk about what the activity is. We don't get into other details.
It's just a little redundant, probably, but God, given what he had to reduce it to, I'm surprised that's all it was.
Yeah, and then there was one other thing. I don't think it's a bad choice, but it's just a different choice. Throughout, there's a couple of references to persons in custody, and that reminded me of when sometimes we get text that says monies instead of money. So I wonder if we could just say people.
People, yeah, people. Yeah.
Just to kind of take it a little bit out of the legalese. It's not wrong. I think there's one more.
Yeah, people. Yeah, it sounds.
And then another one. This is just I'm thinking more of for folks who might not be first language English.
Interestingly enough, I would think the normal usage is persons in custody, but
really.
But
that's
just me. That's just me.
People.
I don't know that I've ever written the word persons, but it's probably contextual too.
Yeah.
The other one is,
I think that is commonplace, persons in custody. I mean,
Yeah.
it's sort of in an industry standard term, but you don't need to feel obliged to use it.
and then the other one,
Well,
there's a phrase, oh, sorry.
do we really want to leave it people, since understand the terminology normally used is persons in custody?
I feel that people is more the way people speak and the way people write. I feel persons is more the way government writes.
If you're arrested, you understand the persons in custody. Michelle, what do you think?
Well, since from an 8th grader's point of view, I would leave it as people.
Okay, all right.
And I have just one more. There's a phrase that gets used, and it's, again, this is not an incorrect phrase, I don't think, but it's just maybe a phrasing of, so we say use law enforcement criminal investigations. I always like to break up those mouthfuls, especially for English, people who English maybe isn't their first language. We could just say criminal investigations by law enforcement.
And where is this?
Peter has it highlighted now.
I don't even know why we need the law enforcement.
Unless an investment would interfere.
Oh, or just take out law enforcement.
Yeah, I would.
With a criminal investigation? Yeah.
Yeah, anything to simplify that mouthful is definitely appreciated. Peter, is that the only time we do that?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Great. That's it.
What a supervisor.
Well, I want to compliment Scott on taking a horrendous measure and boiling it down to some really easy things for us to go through and change as far as grammar and wordage. And I mean, we made such few to his, considering what he made to the actual digest. So I appreciate that, Scott. Thank you.
Well, thank you for the compliment, but really the compliment is to the city attorney. This was really a lot easier because they helped unify two documents that disagreed, and so that
applause to you both.
that was a really good job. It was easy for me.
Applause to you both, but I would have had a much
always defer to the law. As Scott, that was a very good point. Defer to the text of the law, not the digest, generally.
Yeah.
Okay. I think, given the fact that we've made some changes before we open the public comment, we need a reading so that, and we ask that people who are going to call in, that they please not try to go through the digest, but give us specifics and say this specific in the way it is now, we would like for you to change. This is specific in the proposal. I think you should reconsider, etc., rather than trying to go through it, because it's not fair to the people online to have to just go through it. We've asked very carefully that people make specific recommendations, and we've gotten some comments back about making sure that everybody makes specific recommendations. So I'm asking those online to hold to that theory. So as we read it now, take that into consideration. Peter?
The way it is now, the sheriff is elected by San Francisco voters. In San Francisco, the sheriff's primary duties are managing and operating city jails, being responsible for people in custody, and preserving the peace. The San Francisco sheriff directs about 800 sworn employees. Under state law, the Board of Supervisors has no power to control the sheriff in the performance of their duties. Sheriff's Office oversight generally is the responsibility of the Sheriff's Bureau of Internal Affairs. The district attorney may investigate and prosecute criminal misconduct by the sheriff and sheriff's department employees. The City Ethics Commission may investigate violations of ethics laws. The Sheriff's Department also has a policy that governs the use of force by its sworn employees. There is no city department, board, or commission dedicated to the oversight of the sheriff or the sheriff's department. Proposition blank, or the proposal. Proposition blank would amend the city charter to create the Sheriff's Department Office of Inspector General, OIG parens, and the Sheriff's Department Oversight Board, parens. The OIG would be a new city department independent of the Sheriff's Department. An Inspector General would head this new department. The new OIG would have at least one investigator for every 100 sworn employees of the Sheriff's Department. The OIG would report to the Oversight Board and provide information and recommendations to the sheriff. Subject to certain limitations, the OIG would have the power to, bullet, investigate certain complaints regarding Sheriff's Department employees and contractors, bullet, investigate in-custody deaths unless that investigation will interfere with a criminal investigation, bullet, recommend the sheriff take disciplinary action when the OIG determines an employee violated law or Sheriff's Department policy, bullet, make recommendations regarding the Sheriff's Department use of force policy, bullet, monitor Sheriff's Department operations, and bullet, refer cases to the district attorney or the City Ethics Commission. The Sheriff's Internal Affairs Bureau would maintain its ability to investigate in-custody deaths, violations of department policies, and employee misconduct. Criminal misconduct may still be referred to the district attorney. The Oversight Board would consist of 7 members, 4 appointed by the Board of Supervisors and 3 appointed by the mayor, each serving 4-year terms. One of the Board of Supervisors appointees must be a person with experience representing labor unions. Subject to certain limitations, the Oversight Board would have the power to, bullet, appoint, evaluate, renew, and remove the Inspector General, bullet, evaluate the performance of the Office of the Inspector General, and bullet, seek input from the public and people in custody regarding the Sheriff's Department operations and jail conditions. Based on information from the Office of Inspector General and its own processes, the Oversight Board would make no fewer than 4 reports a year to the Sheriff and the Board of Supervisors. The Oversight Board is also responsible for an annual report to the Sheriff and the Board of Supervisors about the activity of the OIG and the Oversight Board. Subject to certain limitations, both the Oversight Board and the OIG would have the power to hold hearings and subpoena witnesses. Proposition blank would not prohibit or limit the sheriff from investigating the conduct of an employee or contractor or taking disciplinary or corrective action. A yes vote means, if you vote yes, you want to amend the city charter to create a Sheriff's Department Office of Inspector General and a Sheriff's Department Oversight Board that would make recommendations to the sheriff and the Board of Supervisors about the operations of the Sheriff's Department. A no vote means, if you vote no, you do not want to make these changes.
The only thing I saw that might be clunky is right before the yes vote, where we say the Oversight Board is also responsible for an annual report to the Sheriff and the Board of Supervisors about the activity of the OIG and the Oversight Board. It's activity and the OIG, would that? I mean, we're repeating we're saying the Oversight Board is making a report about of the Oversight Board. That's the only thing that I caught that might be complicated or might be saying, well, why are we doing that? What do you think?
So that the body is responsible for reporting on its own activity.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. It may be too generic, but it just seemed to me to be rather strange that we're saying the Oversight Board is making a report on the Oversight Board, which is exactly what we've just said.
Yeah, and if I was writing this, I think I would write about its activity and that of the OIG. You can't hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Oh, okay.
Michelle, what do you?
I was muted. Oops. Yeah, because you're talking about activities and also the activity of the OIG, so you'd have to say that of.
So, but is it all right with you if we replace the second oversight board with its activity? Or do you think that's too generic?
We can't, because it's not clear what the it applies to.
Well, yeah, because in this case, I would probably repeat it.
Would you? Okay.
I think we have to, because otherwise it can refer to the Board of Supervisors or Sheriff.
Sheriff. Well, not this. Well, it could refer to the board.
All right.
Would it help to make the word activity plural? The activities of,
about that. Well,
since it's two separate bodies?
Yeah, the activity.
Well, I don't know, you're saying, you're using and, so. You're
Yeah, I think.
activity of one and the activity of the other, so.
Activity of the.
But Betty, I really appreciate your point that it's a little, it almost looks like a mistake.
Yeah.
The way it's written, but I don't know that there's a more elegant solution. I'm sure Scott already has wrestled with this.
I don't know, Scott, what was your thinking on that? Because I know you had to do it for a reason, but it looks clunky and complicated.
Well, it is clunky and
reader. I don't know about
and so that the look of it reflects the path of it. You know, that they're what I'm trying to communicate here as part of the story is that there is a number of reporting requirements that these groups need to do, and I felt that the voter needed to know that part of the story to make a decision. And so the work product of these groups are quarterly reports, and then this annual report that covers both the Inspector General's office, right, and the actions of the board. It's a bit goofy because the board has its own investigative function in this. And so the board may call witnesses, the board may subpoena witnesses, the board may invite public comment, the board may speak with former and current, I suppose, potential prisoners, right? That the OIG it does that as well. And so, but it's on an order of magnitude different is what I got from reading the charter amendment text. So I tried to separate out the notion of this annual report as saying they have to be self-reflexive, whereas in the quarterly reports are more reports about the actions of the Office of Inspector General.
all right, thank you for that process thinking. It helps me a lot. Okay, all right. Well, anything else, Jenica? You're
on mute, Jenica.
Yeah, you're mute.
I have some related. Peter, if you could scroll up and back into the proposal, or the way it is now. Okay, so I caught something else that is inaccurate. Second paragraph, second sentence. Under state law, the Board of Supervisors has no power to control the sheriff in the performance of their duties. That is wrong. My recommendation is that you just remove this sentence because it gets into this very complicated legal rabbit hole about where the sheriff's powers are subject to the board review. So acting as department head, the sheriff, like any other department head, is subject to the board's review and is accountable to the board. But there are certain functions he has as a state and county officer, which the board does not have jurisdiction to oversee him on. And I just think it's more than the voter needs to know. typically pronouncements regarding the powers of the Board of Supervisors is something that the city attorney himself would want to weigh in on if we were inclined to put it in here. And I just think that not necessary.
Okay, I'm for taking it out. Scott?
You could take it out. I mean, this sentence for me, in terms of the story, says that the sheriff's department has a level of independence in action, right? And that's what I was trying to communicate with this. I don't know if that is the main thrust of the narrative, so I would just take it out and be fine with that.
We had, yeah, and I think that point's well taken. We, in the original draft, had a phrase that the sheriff is a state constitutional officer, which was trying to get at that same point, but that's also technical and probably means nothing to most voters. So,
I think this is fine.
Okay.
Michelle, okay with you?
Yeah, it's fine with me.
Lauren?
Yeah, that's okay with me.
Okay,
I'm
All right.
always a yes to take it out.
it's gone. All right. Anything else? Well, now's when we open the floor to public comment, and we ask that you tell us what in the digest you would change specifically. And so for that, we will now open the floor to public comment.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, we can.
Okay. David Pilpel, I'll try to be very quick and specific because I've got another thing at 11, and then if I miss something, I'll do another pass on this tonight. You're doing great work of trying to make sense of a complicated thing. First line, the in San Francisco comma, I would strike that. I think it's unnecessary. I might reword the primary duties are to manage and operate, to be responsible, and to preserve. I think it reads a little better, but it's arguable. Next graph, I would delete San Francisco before sheriff, so it would just read the sheriff directs. Second line, Bureau of Internal Affairs, I would reword as Internal Affairs Bureau, because that's the reference later on. Next sentence, the district attorney investigates and prosecutes rather than may. I would, in that same sentence, I would strike the sheriff and, so it would read criminal misconduct by sheriff's department employees, period. Next sentence, the city ethics commission, again, investigates, strike may. Yeah, I'll think about the use of force policy. The standalone line dedicated to oversight of the sheriff's department, I think that's sufficient. Under the proposal, thanks. I'll look at the bullet points later, I think. Oh, and the last bullet point, I think you can strike city. I think because you referred to the Ethics Commission earlier, I think it's pretty clear that there's only one Ethics Commission. But I'll look again at those bullet points. Can we go down? The sheriff's, second sentence there, criminal misconduct, I think would still be referred to the DA. The next paragraph about the Oversight Board, I think 4 appointed by the Board of Supervisors and 3 appointed by the mayor, period. The measure, it's all blurring together. The measure about the Public Works Commission didn't specify the terms and didn't talk about the qualifications for certain members. I'm not sure that it's germane or material here, but I will give an award to Jenica. I think she used the term laborized workforce, and I kind of like that. Can we keep going? Oh, I'm sorry. The second bullet there, evaluate the performance of the OIG, because that was previously introduced. The next graph after the bullets, based on information from the OIG, the Oversight Board would make at least 4 reports a year. I don't like the no fewer than where you can avoid it. Next sentence, the Oversight Board would be responsible for, rather than is also. Just above the yes vote, proposition blank would not prohibit or limit, maybe prevent, just a thought. A yes vote means you want to, I would strike amend the city charter to, I would just say you want to create a sheriff's department. I think those are the big changes, and again, I'll do another pass tonight, but I hope that's helpful and streamlines some stuff. Unless you have questions. Thank you.
All right. Is there any more public comment? Hearing none, then public comment is closed. Shall we go back and go over his comments and thoughts? In the first sentence, he felt like we should take out the comma after in San Francisco, and that's we usually separate it. What?
Betty, I understood his comment to be to take out the phrase in San Francisco entire,
Right.
which I actually, when he mentioned that, I realized that we use San Francisco there, which we've taken to use the city instead.
Yeah.
So we think that by taking that out, the sheriff's primary duties are reflected back to the San Francisco line before.
Yeah, because we do say that the sheriff is elected by San Francisco voters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
The sheriffs. And then we don't need San Francisco sheriff in the next.
Jenica. Yes, Jenica.
We did include in San Francisco for a specific reason. San Francisco is the only city and county fully contiguous in the state. And so because of that, the sheriff's duties in San Francisco are different than the sheriff's duties might be in, say, Marin County, where they are the sole law enforcement authority in certain jurisdictions.
Wow.
And so because of that, if we said the sheriff, we didn't want to suggest that these are universal duties of a sheriff in any jurisdiction, and that was why we included that.
Oh.
So we often in the digest, when we say San Francisco, we say the city, say the city or county. So would we want to say in the city and county of San Francisco? Just because otherwise, we don't really reflect the countiness.
That would be accurate.
Is that helpful?
What is it?
Is it necessary? That's the next point.
Yeah, I mean, I just think if that's the reason we have that introductory phrase, then the way that the introductory phrase is written doesn't seem to do what, and I'm not sure the voter gets that nuance.
Well, I mean, are there any duties that differ if you're dealing with the city of San Francisco versus the county of San Francisco?
Yeah. The
sheriff is a county officer. So the answer is technically yes, but I don't think that level of nuance is necessary for the voter for this purpose.
Yeah.
Okay.
I refer to the committee on how you like to refer to our jurisdiction, but I do think it is relevant to indicate that we're defining the duties specific to our jurisdiction, given the unique characteristics.
Leave it. Let's move on.
Yeah. Okay. So do we need San Francisco sheriff? I mean, San Francisco.
I think we're leaving in San Francisco.
Oh, yeah, but In the
To
next paragraph.
Oh,
Do we need that?
well, but he wants us to say to manage and to operate.
Oh.
And so,
I always prefer getting rid of the gerunds when possible. And so that's a suggestion we could take.
But then we go back to, so does it read better if you say duties are to manage and operate, to be responsible, and to preserve?
Yeah, we get back to that.
I don't like it.
I don't like that clunkiness.
I think it reads much better the way it is. I think.
Yeah, let's.
Gerunds are easier to read, in my humble opinion.
Remember, I'm a TV guy, so a lot of my writing is writing to be read.
There you.
Wow.
So what do you?
And mine as well. That's why sometimes it's not terribly legal.
Yeah, I mean, two is a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like the two. Yeah, so.
Leave it as it is.
Yeah, I know gerunds sometimes don't translate well, but I don't think that would help here.
We're translating this, so yeah.
Yeah, it does get translated. So
This would not do well in French, but then I think if you're doing that translation,
but I agree that we should leave it as is.
Yeah. And then he, in the second paragraph, he wants us to consider the responsibility of the Bureau of Internal Affairs rather than the Sheriff's Bureau. And he thinks sheriffs is and he wants us to call it Internal Affairs Bureau rather than the Sheriff's Bureau of Internal Affairs.
I will search the legal text. What it says. It's not in the legal text.
Just pick one. Doesn't matter.
Jenica?
well, what's the official name?
The official name is Bureau of Internal Affairs. So the subsequent reference is wrong. So we should correct that.
The Bureau of, or we could say Internal Affairs and then lowercase the B in Bureau.
If you want to refer to the function generically, but if you're going to refer to the to the sub-department, I would make the reference correct.
Aren't we correct the way it is?
The first reference is correct. The subsequent reference is wrong because it says Internal Affairs Bureau, which is not technically what they call themselves.
Okay, so it's a Bureau of Internal. Okay.
Yes. And it's not in the legal text.
Okay. But what we have it right now is
the first reference is correct. So I would not. So Mr. Pilpel's suggestion would, in the first reference, changing that would make it wrong.
Okay.
But we have made it consistent now.
Yeah, now
you have made it consistent.
Okay. All right. Now then he when we say the City Ethics Commission, he wants us to say would. He wants us to change may throughout to would.
No,
I understood it differently.
I thought he wanted to take out may, but I may have misheard.
That's what I understood. I understood that as well. That he wanted to change both the district attorney may investigate to the district attorney investigates and prosecutes, and then the City Ethics Commission investigates violations.
Yes, I've got the S's on it. That's right.
Since it's the way it is now.
He wanted would, yeah.
Yeah, it's the way it is now, so we don't have to be as. These are things that these bodies do, and this office does.
Yeah, that's the City Ethics Commission investigates. I think that's correct. Right before it too, he thought we could take out the sheriff and sheriffs and just say misconduct by department employees.
Peter?
I don't.
So we just need to. Peter just needs some instruction on the may thing. So the district attorney investigates and prosecutes where your cursor is?
Yes, I think we decided that. Yes.
And then Peter, the next sentence, the City Ethics Commission investigates.
Yeah, because it's describing what it does. It doesn't go into whether or not it chooses to pursue investigations versus not. Okay.
And that agrees with the other
Yeah.
sentences in this section anyway.
That's
Yeah, because we say governs, so,
right. Okay.
um,
That govern. Well, I mean, it does govern. It's not a choice of whether or not it does or does not.
right, now, then he wants us to say the city attorney may investigate and prosecute criminal misconduct by department employees.
Yeah, but we haven't defined what department is, so I think.
I know, so I would leave that one in.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I also would leave in.
Sorry, did we
sheriff.
say, did you just say city attorney?
Uh-huh.
Uh,
It's the district
here.
attorney. It's the district attorney.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. I just wanted to make sure it's district.
Well,
I
I'm reading from the text before we corrected it.
Okay. Okay. Very good. Just as long as there's no other references in here that the city attorney investigates criminal misconduct, that would be.
Right. Thank you for correcting me. But the district attorney investigates and prosecutes criminal misconduct by the sheriff and sheriff's department employees. I guess we could take out the second sheriff's by the sheriff and department employees,
But
we haven't qualified which department, and there's lots of them.
haven't defined the department. So
Yeah.
I think we would have to leave it in as.
Yeah, I think it has to stay. Correct.
There's too many uses of the word department for us to take it out. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then down to the solo line, he thinks we should eliminate the sheriff and just say the sheriff's department. In other words, it would say department, board, or commission dedicated to the oversight of the sheriff's department. I think leaving the sheriff in is helpful to the voter.
Yeah.
I agree.
Right.
That we're not leaving out the sheriff. That if we leave it out, it looks like the commission can oversight the department, and the deputies, but not the sheriff. And I think leaving it in clarifies.
Sure. Do we need the second the?
I was wondering that too, because above
We don't.
sheriff's department employees.
Okay, that sounds
Yeah.
good.
Or yeah, I think we need it.
Yeah.
All right, then he goes clear down to the last bullet where he said he wants to take out the cities before ethics commission. This wants to take out city, refer cases to the district attorney or ethics commission.
I don't know if there are ethics commissions within other city bodies or departments or agencies. Is it just the city? Like, is the ethics commission that the city has, is that the only one?
Correct. It is.
Yes, it is.
So then we should take it out.
Yeah.
Is that clarifying it for the voter? If
Well, I
we
think
take it out, Michelle?
Well, if we haven't referred to the ethics commission
Before?
I think it's a great way to reintroduce the name, like City Ethics Commission.
Well, we don't.
We did do it in the way it is now.
Yeah, but that's way up. I mean,
Right.
It's not.
Yeah, it's like kind of first use, and then we don't say city district attorney, because that would be confusing and wrong in many ways. So,
But we call it the City Ethics Commission. So, and then we don't refer to it for many lines. So I think it might be good.
I think I agree, Michelle. I think it's helpful to the voter to, well, there's only one, we know that, but maybe the voter doesn't, and yeah.
either way, I'm fine.
City, maybe it's oxymoronic.
And then here's where the would be is. He's down where the Oversight Board would be appointed.
Would be
4 would be appointed and 3 would be appointed. And he wants to leave out serving 4-year terms.
Sorry, what's the first one? The would. I had it as inserting would in a phrase in their criminal conduct. Peter, can you look for criminal conduct? Not sure where that was.
Would that
It's right
be
above it. It's right above it. Yeah.
okay? Okay. And so the issue is what?
Well,
Criminal, yeah, I'm not sure where we're talking about still.
yeah, you're right. He does also want us to say criminal misconduct would be referred to the district attorney.
Could still,
Could,
right?
well, may, could. Wait, chair would maintain, okay.
Yeah, we tend to use would, could first
Okay.
Right.
Criminal
instead of
misconduct.
may, but sometimes we use may too.
Yeah, may, it could still be referred to. Could,
I'd rather it be could than
would.
well, the would in that instance would mean that all criminal misconduct could be referred, and perhaps the internal affairs has already taken care of the minor misconduct. Who knows? I don't know.
Okay.
Mhm.
Could, okay, right, okay. That works for me.
And then, sorry, Betty, then you had said the comment about each serving 4-year terms.
Right.
I agree, we don't normally include that, at least to my memory. Just because we haven't included doesn't mean that we wouldn't necessarily here if it's helpful.
But this is brand new.
I guess the oversight, there's been other oversight boards recently created that didn't include this for. I mean, I don't know that
I don't think it makes a difference one way or the other.
so then I would say take it out. Yeah.
Yeah, doesn't. Not critical at all. Speak personally.
And he wants us to keep referring to the Inspector General at the Office of Inspector General as OIG. For instance, in the bullets, we say Office of Inspector General.
I think it's an interesting point about consistency. Sometimes we use the acronym and sometimes we don't. So I would just like us to be consistent, which if we use the acronym, use it always in each section, you know. So, but because we do use it sometimes and then we don't. So it almost makes you think that we might be talking about two different things.
Well,
And it's something that we define in a parenthetical.
So I don't know if this is, I think that's correct if we are writing an instruction manual, right? We're telling a story. And I think when you're telling a story, you need to go back and forth between the concepts to keep attention and interest. That's my preference and why I did it that way.
Well,
Sometimes, I mean, if we use the acronym closer to the spelled out first reference, that's great. But then further down, it might be better to reintroduce the full term. But
yeah, we're trying to present an image here. We're trying to present a positive, and rather than confuse them by an OIG, and then they have to go look back and figure out.
Yeah, because if it's closer to the first reference, that's one thing. But then there's this concept of reintroduction, and that's always very tricky. You know?
Right, but I don't know that even within that intention. So sometimes we're very right here where Peter has highlighted. Peter, scroll down again. We write out Office as Inspector General, and then in the next paragraph we use both Office of Inspector General and then OIG. So I think that we can have whatever intention we want, but we should make sure the intention's coming through.
Okay, so it seems that in the sections where we refer to the office a lot, that's where we use the acronym.
Yeah, if we're gonna go back to the acronym, if we're gonna go back to the acronym, at some point, then I would say based on information from the office of the OIG and its
Yeah,
processes.
OIG, yeah.
But I would definitely leave it under the performance, the Office of Inspector General, because that says to the voter that this committee, this commission, this new thing that they're voting on is evaluating the performance of the Office of Inspector General, rather than having them to try to figure out
Okay.
what the OIG is. I mean, yes, we have the Inspector General before it, but then suddenly you've got the O in front of IG. And, you know, we're looking at 8th graders, you know, who have a tendency to just bounce over things. So I would leave it there. If you feel that the acronym is important, we can put that in the based on information.
Based on, yeah. Because we also use it in the last line of that paragraph of based about the activities of the OIG and the Oversight Board. So maybe it's line based on information from the OIG.
See, the only reason I would have left it in the beginning is because we've used the acronym at the end. But yeah, that's
yeah. Well,
I don't know. I'm sure Scott.
So Scott, what do you
over this himself, trying to figure it all out, why it should be and should not be. It's what obviously, Lauren, you're ready to use the OIG there in that.
I merely am suggesting we could just look at, let's, rather than the should we not, look at each and make sure that it's clear in each use. You know, because I'm just seeing that sometimes we use the acronym a lot and then sometimes we don't. And I'm not saying that's incorrect or that it should be changed, but it just, it doesn't seem, it seems to flip back and forth multiple times.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And that might be the right thing, but it is interesting that we've changed back and forth between multiple times.
Just change it. Let's move on. This is not a big deal where we're going with this whole thing.
There's no hard and fast rule about when you introduce versus. It just, I think that the guiding principle is, does it make it easier to read, or not? So.
Where would you like changes?
So what is the decision? Based on information from the OIG and its own processes, is that?
I would probably, since we did that in the first paragraph before, that's where I would change it if we were going to change it.
Yeah. Okay. And then we refer to OIG in the last.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
And then he would say the Oversight Board would make at least 4 reports a year rather than no fewer than. Are we
sure?
I don't know. Are we
at least? Yeah, that's.
I think at least is more straightforward.
Yeah. It's
the code, right? The actual text says quarterly, and that's why I came up with 4 times a year.
okay?
I think at least is fine.
Okay, all right, at least, all right, and then he says he would like for us to look at the Oversight Board would be responsible for annual report to the sheriff.
I agree that that's consistent with the style that we usually use in the proposal.
Would, yeah, okay, would be, yeah.
And the last thing in the proposition is proposition blank would prevent the sheriff from investigating. I think that's a different interpretation myself.
I would leave it.
Yeah, I would leave it as well. Scott, I think Scott would leave it since he wrote it. Lauren, your comment?
Either way, I don't see a reason to make the change, and I don't see a reason why what's there could be improved on. I don't know that it's
Okay, and the final thing in the yes vote, he wants us to leave out amend the city charter.
To me, that's a question of what is our usual thing here, and then maybe be consistent, because consistency can be very helpful. You know, so in charter amendments, charter measures, do we usually include that or not?
We've included it everywhere, so if we change it here, then we have to
No, if we usually include it, then we should.
use it in the one this morning, so
What does he want to change?
Keep it.
he wants us to eliminate, you want to amend the city charter to create. He would rather we say, you want to create a sheriff's department.
Yeah.
I think the fact that we're amending the charter is important, because the charter is something that can only be changed by the voter. And whether they realize that or not, they're asking a change that can only in the future be changed by the voter.
Yeah.
I think we covered all his comments at the moment. I didn't see any other comment that, did I miss any comments? He had a number that I think we missed I think we've covered most of them. I'm sure that we will get a reconsideration anyway. So given the changes that we have made, I would say, does the committee have any further comments to make before we have a final reading?
No.
Yeah.
Okay, then Peter, can we have a final reading?
The way it is now, the sheriff is elected by San Francisco voters. In San Francisco, the sheriff's primary duties are managing and operating city jails, being responsible for people in custody, and preserving the peace. The San Francisco sheriff directs about 800 sworn employees. Sheriff's office oversight generally is the responsibility of the Sheriff's Bureau of Internal Affairs. The district attorney investigates and prosecutes criminal misconduct by the sheriff and sheriff's department employees. The City Ethics Commission investigates violations of ethics laws. The sheriff's department also has a policy that governs the use of force by its sworn employees. There is no city department, board, or commission dedicated to the oversight of the sheriff or sheriff's department. The proposal. Proposition blank would amend the city charter to create the Sheriff's Department Office of Inspector General, OIG parens, and the Sheriff's Department Oversight Board parens. The OIG would be a new city department independent of the Sheriff's Department. An Inspector General would head this new department. The new OIG would have at least one investigator for every 100 sworn employees of the Sheriff's Department. The OIG would report to the Oversight Board and provide information and recommendations to the sheriff. Subject to certain limitations, the OIG would have the power to bullet, investigate certain complaints regarding Sheriff's Department employees and contractors, investigate in-custody deaths unless that investigation would interfere with a criminal investigation, recommend the sheriff take disciplinary action when the OIG determines an employee violated law or Sheriff's Department policy, make recommendations regarding the Sheriff's Department use of force policy, monitor Sheriff's Department operations, and refer cases to the district attorney or the City Ethics Commission. The Sheriff's Bureau of Internal Affairs would maintain its ability to investigate in-custody deaths, violations of department policies, and employee misconduct. Criminal misconduct could still be referred to the district attorney. The Oversight Board would consist of 7 members, 4 appointed by the Board of Supervisors and 3 appointed by the mayor. One of the Board of Supervisors appointees must be a person with experience representing labor unions. Subject to certain limitations, the Oversight Board would have the power to appoint, evaluate, renew, and remove the Inspector General, evaluate the performance of the Office of the Inspector General, and seek input from the public and people in custody regarding the Sheriff's Department's operations and jail conditions. Based on information from the OIG and its own processes, the Oversight Board would make at least 4 reports a year to the Sheriff and the Board of Supervisors. The Oversight Board would be responsible for an annual report to the Sheriff and the Board of Supervisors about the activities of the OIG and the Oversight Board. Subject to certain limitations, both the Oversight Board and the OIG would have the power to hold hearings and subpoena witnesses. Proposition blank would not prohibit or limit the sheriff from investigating the conduct of an employee or contractor or taking disciplinary or corrective action. A yes vote means if you vote yes, you want to amend the city charter to create a Sheriff's Department Office of Inspector General and a Sheriff's Department Oversight Board that would make recommendations to the sheriff and the Board of Supervisors about the operations of the Sheriff's Department. A no vote means if you vote no, you do not want to make these changes.
Any comments? The only one I saw
Yes.
was that that we're inconsistent when sometimes we put the Oversight Board and OIG, and other times we go OIG and Oversight Board, and we've done that exactly in back-to-back sentences where it says based on information from the OIG, and then the last we say about the activities of the OIG and the Oversight Board, and then we go subject to certain limitations, both the Oversight Board and the OIG. Now, I mean, it's a nitpicky but we nitpick a lot.
This is a change we've made before, and when we've seen this, I think it's an important change, and thanks for pointing it out. I didn't catch that either, so good spot.
So what do we want to do? Just
Make it consistent.
OIG first?
Yes. I think it reads better.
Okay.
To
Yeah.
say, don't you think it reads better to say OIG and Oversight Board rather than the Oversight Board and the
Doesn't really make any
OIG?
difference to me, but if you think it does, yeah.
I think it reads. Read it out loud. When you read it out loud, you see it reads OIG and Oversight Board easier than Oversight Board and OIG.
Yeah, and just another consistency point. I believe we say the Oversight Board, so as we're making these consistent.
Right. Yeah. Also, in the line which has the word violations in it.
Peter, did we go? Is this something that you need time to do? Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
I have these here. Where else is this an issue? Or did I miss anything here? OIG Oversight.
Peter, if you don't catch all of these, I would consider this clerical, so you can.
It's a housekeeping, right?
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, then in the line which, all right, and the line that starts with the Sheriff's Bureau of Internal Affairs. Yeah, and to investigate in custody deaths, violations of department policies and employee misconduct. It may be better to switch because it could be read violations of employee misconduct.
I agree.
Yeah, so, you know.
So you want to put employee misconduct and violations of department policies?
Right, yeah. And violations of, yeah.
I agree. Yeah.
I have another one if everyone's done.
I have some as well, so they're small though.
I can go after.
Okay. So just one quick thing. While we were doing this, I did check with AP Style Book, our preferred style book, and they say the word people is preferred to persons in all plural cases. So that, I think, backs us all. Well, we liked it, and now AP kind of backs us up. And then at the beginning of the proposal, the first paragraph, we use, and this is just because it's fresh from the other day, we use the word new a lot here, and we have previously tried to we've tried to use it strategically, and so not saying that we need to get rid of any of these, but the OIG would be a new city department, and then the next sentence we say the new OIG, so I think we can just get rid of the second new.
I'd get rid of the first one.
Nope. Since we're creating it, yeah. So do you want to get rid of both, Betty?
Sure. Where do we say create?
Sentence above.
Yeah. So yeah, I think we had a discussion about Yeah. To create.
and that's all I have.
And then
I think we could leave the new in the inspector general would head this new department
okay.
or not.
It's not necessary.
I don't mind it there.
It's just to draw attention to its newness.
Yeah, I think it fleshes it out a little bit for the.
Yeah. But now that we got rid of two others, it's a little less glaring. Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, Jenica, the floor is yours.
The first reference to Bureau of Internal Affairs, can we go back to that?
Right?
So this sentence reads, Sheriff's Office oversight generally is the responsibility of the Sheriff's Bureau of Internal Affairs. I'm not sure that's correct. The Sheriff's Bureau of Internal Affairs is charged with investigating employee misconduct. That's their function. So I think oversight is a little overly broad.
So we could take out oversight and just say sheriff's office generally is the responsibility. No, that doesn't work either, does it?
What I couldn't find and why I went with this is in none of the documents that we had, did anybody say how the sheriff's department is currently overseen?
Correct.
Right.
Yes, and
so
that's not, yeah.
You know,
That
I
was-
was trying to work in, you know, the idea of internal affairs without getting too wonky, right? But you could say sheriff's office conduct generally is the responsibility of the Sheriff Bureau of Internal Affairs.
Would that be correct, Jenica? I see her shaking her head.
I think that's also incorrect because the sheriff's office could encompass conduct of the sheriff himself. And because the Bureau of Internal Affairs makes recommendations to the sheriff, that bureau cannot investigate the sheriff. So essentially, the bureau is they're subordinate to the sheriff, who's the appointing officer, and they investigate any misconduct by anyone within the ranks of the department, and then they report their findings to the sheriff himself or herself, or themselves, and that person then decides whether or not to take those recommendations. So it's more about it's more about the misconduct of the people in the department. And if you just say sheriff's office, it doesn't get.
So how would you say? So how would you correct?
I might say issues of employee misconduct are investigated by the Sheriff's Bureau of Internal Affairs. I don't love that, but that I would revise this to get at that concept.
Okay.
And you can play with the wording, but.
Well, I think either works very well, Jenica. I think that what I'm trying to do in this paragraph is describe for the voters the status quo of oversight, and then I think one of the reasons this is here is because there isn't a clear oversight body or path. So I think there's all sorts of different ways we could address this.
Thank you.
And it would be of the, yes, thanks. Well, that, if that is generally correct.
Okay.
That is correct. I mean, issues of employment misconduct, I don't know. I mean, they're charged with investigating, right? They don't have the authority to make decisions about it. They just make recommendations. And then the sheriff, as the appointing authority, decides whether to accept or adopt those recommendations.
So investigating employee misconduct is the responsibility.
Yes.
I like that better.
Okay.
What do you think?
The R after yeah, there you go.
Okay.
I mean, here, hold on. So I might flip it around so that it doesn't seem that they're the only entity that can do it, right? Because the Ethics Commission may look into any employee sworn or not. Department of Human Resources has some latitude in this area. So I might just Yeah.
say the sheriff's.
Flip it, then it's just defining what they do as opposed to excluding the prospect of anyone else looking into employee misconduct.
Yep, and that.
Yeah.
I think that reads better too.
Well, we can just say, and do we need to clarify that it's employee misconduct in the sheriff's department when we're already talking about the Sheriff's Bureau of Internal Affairs?
I think that's fine.
So get rid of the sheriffs.
Mm.
Do you want both sheriffs?
Hmm.
We haven't defined department,
Yeah.
so
So do we want to take out the sheriff there or leave it in?
Maybe leave it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay.
Okay.
Hmm.
Well, unfortunately, we've made a couple of significant changes, and for the people who only have Audible, I think we need one final reading.
The way, excuse me, the way it is now, the sheriff is elected by San Francisco voters. In San Francisco, the sheriff's primary duties are managing and operating city jails, being responsible for people in custody, and preserving the peace. The San Francisco sheriff directs about 800 sworn employees. The Sheriff's Bureau of Internal Affairs investigates employee misconduct in the sheriff's department. The district attorney investigates and prosecutes criminal misconduct by the sheriff and the sheriff's department employees. The City Ethics Commission investigates violations of ethics laws. The sheriff's department also has a policy that governs the use of force by its sworn employees. There is no city department, board, or commission dedicated to the oversight of the sheriff or the sheriff's department. The proposal, Proposition blank, would amend the city charter to create the Sheriff's Department Office of Inspector General, OIG parens, and the Sheriff's Department Oversight Board parens. The OIG would be a city department independent of the Sheriff's Department. An Inspector General would head this new department. The OIG would have at least one investigator for every 100 sworn employees of the Sheriff's Department. The OIG would report to the Oversight Board and provide information and recommendations to the sheriff. Subject to certain limitations, the OIG would have the power to, bullet, investigate certain complaints regarding Sheriff's Department employees and contractors, bullet, investigate in-custody deaths unless that investigation would interfere with a criminal investigation, bullet, recommend the sheriff take disciplinary action when the OIG determines an employee violated law or Sheriff's Department policy, bullet, make recommendations regarding the Sheriff's Department use of force policy, bullet, monitor Sheriff's Department operations, and bullet, refer cases to the district attorney or the City Ethics Commission. The Sheriff's Bureau of Internal Affairs would maintain its ability to investigate in-custody deaths, employee misconduct, and violations of department policies. Criminal misconduct could still be referred to the district attorney. The Oversight Board would consist of 7 members, 4 appointed by the Board of Supervisors and 3 appointed by the mayor. One of the Board of Supervisors appointees must be a person with experience representing labor unions. Subject to certain limitations, the Oversight Board would have the power to, bullet, appoint, evaluate, renew, and remove the Inspector General, bullet, evaluate the performance of the Office of Inspector General, and bullet, seek input from the public and people in custody regarding the Sheriff's Department operations and jail conditions. Based on information from the OIG and its own processes, the Oversight Board would make at least 4 reports a year to the Sheriff and the Board of Supervisors. The Oversight Board would be responsible for an annual report to the Sheriff and Board of Supervisors about the activities of the OIG and the Oversight Board. Subject to certain limitations, both the OIG and the Oversight Board would have the power to hold hearings and subpoena witnesses. Proposition blank would not prohibit or limit the sheriff from investigating the conduct of an employee or contractor or taking disciplinary or corrective action. A yes vote means, if you vote yes, you want to amend the city charter to create a Sheriff's Department Office of Inspector General and a Sheriff's Department Oversight Board that would make recommendations to the sheriff and the Board of Supervisors about the operations of the Sheriff's Department. A no vote means, if you vote no, you do not want to make these changes.
one question.
Okay.
This one teeny easy. Going back to the very beginning, maybe I misheard, but in the second paragraph, should it be the district attorney investigates and prosecutes criminal misconduct?
That's there.
Yeah, it's there because I didn't hear
Oh, you
prosecute.
didn't hear it.
Oh, did I? Oops.
I didn't hear it, but it didn't mean that you didn't
Okay.
say it. But
Okay. When you're reading it while somebody's hearing and saying it, sometimes you read what you hear what you're supposed to read. Okay. Anything else?
No, nothing from me.
oh, fine.
All right, then Scott, we'll allow you to make the motion to adopt.
Oh, sure. I move we adopt the digest as drafted.
All in favor? Aye.
I second it.
Okay.
Aye.
All in favor?
In favor,
Aye.
yes.
Opposed? The motion is, the digest is adopted as read. There is an appeal process, and for that, we ask that you put in writing exactly what you would like for us to reconsider, and send to the Department of Elections. The slide will go up on the board. And by 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, we will be taking up on Monday morning, first thing, both the reconsiderations for the youth vote and the reconsiderations for this measure as well. And that will be Monday morning. The first one will be the youth vote, and the second one will be the sheriff's new oversight. Tomorrow morning, we have nothing but appeals. The bond measure is final with no appeals. We have appeals on, so far, everything that we have done. We don't have the appeals in yet for yesterday, but we do have appeals for Tuesday. And so now we're waiting to see if we have appeals on Wednesday. So we will have appeals to consider. Hopefully they won't be too extensive discussion, but that's what appeals and reconsiderations are for. So given that, we will see you in the morning, and we are recessed until in the morning at 9 o'clock. Thank
Do we
you.
need to take public comment?
Oh, yes, thank you.
And there's if anybody has, based on what we've read today, something we want to make sure we add to the words we need to know.
Oh,
Thank you, Scott. I'm
Yeah.
trying to, this was too complicated, I guess. All right, first I take back the recessing. I guess we need to look at the words you need to know. Scott, this is yours. What words did you come up with?
I actually, I don't think there's a lot of poorly defined words in this. I think it's generally understandable. So I didn't think anything.
Okay, anybody else had words you needed to know should be added?
no. Once you got rid of city bodies, no.
Well, that's already a word you need to know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That we have to really try to figure out, yes. Okay,
I didn't see anything.
all right.
There was some discussion about if you wanted to define sworn employee or not.
Oh,
Thank you, but I don't, we can put it on the list, but
no.
I'd like to see that on the list, since we're just, we're not deciding to define them at this point. We're just trying to remember.
Okay, yeah.
and I will mention that tomorrow, following the reconsiderations, Peter will be posting for us to appear. He may even send it out tonight, but he will be posting. We're going to post every Friday the list of words you need to know that we are considering,
Oh,
so that you have a list and that the public has a list.
Okay.
And so and then the list next week will be a combination of all of them. So we're generally just keeping a list so that when it comes to time for us to look at the words you need to know in the third week, we will all have had 2 weeks to look at what we've done, and plus the third week, and it'll make it much simpler for us to go down the list. So I wanted you to know that we've come to that new decision, and I think it's probably a good one. Do we need to open the floor for words you need to know, or should we just leave it for the reconsiderations?
I think you should open the floor.
All right. Is there anyone who wants to make a comment regarding the words you need to know that we have discussed today? All right. I see none. Then we don't have any. There's none on mine. Is there one on yours, Peter?
Nope.
And then seeing none, then the public comment on words you need to know is closed. I do then therefore have to make the floor open to any comment of anyone who would like to make any comments regarding the ballot and a ballot issue that we could discuss. Hearing none, that public comment is closed. Gee, I anticipated, I guess. But thank you, Scott, for bringing that to my attention. So hearing no public comment and having finished our measures for the day, I recess this until 9 a.m. in the morning.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Great
Bye.
job.
Bye.
Scott.